Welcome, you're watching Head to Head. I'm Antonina Antosha with UATV. Recently, the Cabinet of Ministers of Ukraine has approved the strategy for information reintegration of Crimea and the city of Sevastopol. The strategy is aimed at information reintegration of Crimea, creating prerequisites for restoring the territorial integrity of Ukraine and promoting human rights in the occupied territory by information means. So how will the strategy be implemented? To discuss this, we're joined in the studio today by Yulia Kazdobina. She's an advisor to Ukraine's Minister of Information Policy. Hello, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So tell me all about the strategy.
Well, it's a document we've been working on for, 2 years by now. And I think it's interesting because it was not purely a government effort. I myself am not a public servant. I'm a kind of freelance advisor to the minister, and when I was appointed the advisor, it was basically my task, and so I had to draft the strategy and then with the help of the ministry to actually get it to become a government document, and this was a very interesting process. We not only did some research, we also engaged in multiple consultations with different other NGOs, and we talked to residents of the occupied territory when they came here. We interviewed them, asked them what information do they think people in Crimea need. So the implementation, the document is important because it's a means of organizing the government work. Lots of the things that are in the strategy, I mean the specific things that are in the strategy, they're already being done. But what's important is that it sets the common goal for everybody. It says that the policy, the communication has to be implemented according to one voice principle. And it makes the information policy minister the body in charge of coordinating other ministries. And we're not talking about coordinating policy making, we're talking about coordinating communication on Crimea issue. And then the strategy sets separate tasks, the set of tasks that we want to achieve, and then divides responsibilities between different agencies. But the strategy itself is a framework document, and so for it to be implemented, we have to draft a plan, and we have 6 months to draft the work plan for the strategy. So we're going to, in that plan, we're going to have some initial measures, the most important measures, but at the same time, the ministry itself is going to continue what it's been doing for the past 3 years of its existence, is conducting communication campaign on Crimea. So participating in different foreign events, trying to publish materials for different audiences, meaning Crimeans, Ukrainian audience, and foreign audiences, and so find channels to bring this information and bring these messages to these audiences.
Basically, you have 3 target audiences.
Yes.
Okay, how long is the strategy set for? I mean, when is it going to be fully implemented? And because the main aim of the strategy is to informationally reintegrate Crimea back into Ukraine. So according to the strategy, what's the time frame for the task to be fulfilled?
The time frame for this specific document is until 2021. I mean, when we started it, it was supposed to be for 5 years when we finally were able to get it past all the coordination procedures. It only several years remaining, but still. And after that, it's going to be reviewed, and there's going to be another strategy probably with similar goals, but depending on the developments, maybe other instruments will appear. So we, at this point, we don't really know how long it's going to take for. So information reintegration cannot be separated from the occupation of Crimea. It's
that's logical.
A process that, on the one hand, it facilitates the occupation, but on the other hand, it follows the occupation, right? Because we understand that with what Russia's doing at the occupied territories and how much they're isolated from Ukrainian information space and how much they're trying to create their own kind of different reality in Crimea. We understand that even after Crimea is liberated from the occupation, there's going to be a lot of work to be done to find at least come up with common facts. That's something that we at this point don't have, because Ukrainian media and Russian media report absolutely different on the developments in Crimea.
You said that you've had multiple consultations with various experts and NGOs on what kind of information people living in occupied Crimea need right now. What is this information? What did you come up with? What kind of a conclusion did you come up with?
Well, people said that they wanted to know about the services that Ukraine provides. They wanted to have information on what's going to happen to them after Crimea is liberated. So there are lots of rumors circulated by the Russian government that Ukraine has forgotten them and Ukraine doesn't want to return Crimea. And so they want reassurance that this is not the case. And actually, the fact that this strategy is adopted, I think, is one of the ways to reassure them that, no, we didn't forget. Yes, we keep going that way, and we keep working on the occupation.
I have a quote here of the First Deputy Minister of Information Policy, Emina Japarova, and she said, "One of the goals of Russian propaganda is to convince people living in occupied Crimea that the world has swallowed this pill and that Ukraine has abandoned Crimea and is not fighting for it. The approval of this document, especially in the light of UN resolutions, is an important message for Crimeans," meaning the strategy here, which reduces Kremlin myths to tatters. Could you comment?
Absolutely agree with what Emina says, and this was basically the message when I was presenting the document at the Cabinet of Ministers. I started with this, with saying that yes, that's a message. Among other things, that's a message to the people in Crimea that we still remember, and we were conscious that this message was going to be distorted to a certain extent. I mean, I monitored Russian media after the adoption of the document and looked what they wrote about it, and they were all sarcastic and skeptical, saying, yeah, right, I mean, the Crimean's ours. But
yeah, that's what they said about Thomas before. Yeah,
but still, it's, many things, they tried to laugh at them when Ukraine did them, but they're still happening, so...
Okay, well, you know what? Let's hope that things are going to be happening and we'll have a happy ending and Crimea is going to be liberated and the war Donbass is going to be over. Thank you so much for coming here. That was Yulia Kazdobina. She's an advisor to Ukraine's Minister of Information Policy. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned with UATV for more.